Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining here. Weird times for all of us. Obviously, today's Thursday. This would have been the day for the women's NCAAs and 200 IM, 500 free, and 50 free, and 400 medley relay and 200 free relay, right? Not that I'm keeping track of that.
Press star 4
But,
to unmute yourself.
It's a weird time. I think once you get over the stages of grieving the whole experience and what we lost per se, and then you recognize sooner or later that it's not. It's much more than just much more than swimming, really, than our sport. It's a worldwide situation that we're all dealing with right now. So I think obviously we had a heck of a season. It's been a great run for us. Last few years here. 8 years in a row with an NCAA individual champion. We were hoping to fight to have a chance to continue that streak. And it was probably the second worst team meeting of my career last Thursday when I had together everybody and I shared the news that initially the ACC had made the decision, but then literally as I'm stepping into the meeting right after an awesome practice we had Thursday, with a big group gearing up for NCAAs, we had 14 men and 14 women that were fired up, ready to go. So I think it ultimately it was a blow, but I think we just had to, all I could share with the team is just honestly, there was not a whole lot of words. Mostly tears, to be honest, for what was lost. And I think, what's unique, certainly in all sports, you don't want to take anything away from anybody. I think our sport is so unique in the sense that we gear up for, really very few opportunities in the entire season. So it's and really we feel strongly, certainly as a staff and as a team, that we hadn't really showed our cards, and that's that's what we've done best. We've been an NCAA team, and that's why we've been successful in the last few years. So it's tough not to be able to do that, but again, pretty soon you realize this is much more than swimming, and now we're it's an Olympic year. What does that mean? The responsibility that I feel for the athletes that are here, they have entrusted us with their training and preparation. It's a heavy burden, to be honest. So we're all learning. I got my good man here, my special guest today, Nick Albiero, hanging out in the house for a little bit, and I think he can speak for himself. But I think obviously he was looking forward to the opportunity, having had a chance to go into the NCAA championship, seated first in the 200 butterfly and tied for first in the 100 fly, and just a chance to compete. No guarantees, we know that, but a chance to compete for it. So we're kind of all resetting and kind of expecting, getting ready for the next thing. We don't really know what the next thing is at this moment, so we're just kind of going day by day, and that's been our kind of motto. And I borrowed this from Coach Dan McDonough in baseball, that we're just going to get up and win the day, and we'll win the day every day, and we'll see where that takes us. So. Again, appreciate you guys being here, an opportunity to just, I think we all kind of find ourselves isolated now, so we all need to talk a little bit and talk about sports. So I appreciate the opportunity for me personally, and hopefully for all you guys to keep us some sense of normalcy, right? That's, I think, where we all kind of searching, which is an impossible standard, seems like, at this moment. So thanks again for being here.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up for questions shortly. Let's stick with just you, for Arthur, for this segment, and then we'll bring Nick back in. Thank you for sliding him in there to let us know that he's here. Thank you. Let you get up, and then we're ready for the first question for Arthur Albiero.
Hey, Arthur. This is Coleman Hodges from Swim Swam.
Hey, Coleman.
Hey, so can you, so obviously everyone's stuck at home. So how are what does your role as a head coach look like, yesterday or today, as opposed to, a week or two ago?
Well, I think, I shared this before. I feel a strong sense of responsibility, to our student athletes. And, I think in the last, literally Thursday night, we're having this meeting and breaking the news that, our season's over. And really, there wasn't a whole lot of direction for us to give necessarily at that point. I think what we have continued to learn more than ever is, the opportunity as campus is closing and dorms are closing, and it's a reality that we're living now. So majority of our guys really have kind of headed home. Some of them have still access to pools, somewhat limited. And we have a small group here. We have a couple international guys that, the borders to their countries are closed. So they're here. They're here under our care. And it's not something we take lightly, So that, along with our group of post-grads that are training here, there's still a number of people that in some ways, either are locals or don't really have a place to go necessarily. So they're here, and we're trying to work on potentially a couple options to give them some type of access. Nothing's been finalized yet. And I think that's a frustrating part of sorts where, we're in the world of, we're pretty regimented. We have plans, and we guide people on those plans, right? And I think right now it's very loose. It's a day by day. We're kind of sort of joking around, but that's really the reality. We're just going minute by minute and see what we can and cannot do. And what does that mean for meets being canceled? A number of Olympic trials have been postponed or canceled in some ways. Certainly meets in the U.S. have too. So I don't know. I don't know what we're training for, but, I certainly want to be that coach that keeps the group ready, and whatever comes next, we will be ready. That's kind of our mindset.
All right, next question for Arthur.
Arthur?
Go ahead.
Talk about how this whole situation has literally touched every part of your family. How to go through all the members and what they're going through.
Yeah, it's again, 2020 was a big year for the Albiro family in so many levels. Obviously, starting with the oldest, who's 25. He had a wedding scheduled for April 4th, actually at Churchill Downs. So we've had to redo those plans, and at this point, obviously it's been postponed. We're not canceling that one; it's just postponed for now. We're not really sure when that's going to take place, potentially August, but those are very loose dates at this point. So the everything that goes with that, and all the family that was coming from out of town to be part of this celebration, certainly we're dealing with the logistics of that and delay honeymoons and flight changes and all that. So it's been busy few days. I think certainly Nick and the middle one, Nick obviously was front and center to have a chance to go compete. As a member of the U.S. national team, he certainly earned the right. So we felt to go and compete and have a chance. And then ultimately, Gabby, who was a senior in high school, completely had, again, her world upside down too. Senior trips and lots of fun things that happen in senior year. It's been a disappointment for her too. So I think from the three of them, to watch that, I think as a parent, that's the hardest thing, to watch your children, be disappointed, be heartbroken. And then certainly, even further than that, my wife, we own a swim school. I say we very loosely, is my wife, Safe Splash Swim Labs, and Amy's been running that, and it's been up and running for about a year and doing well and growing. And, we had to shut doors yesterday, literally. So I actually went with her to kind of pick up a few things and turn the thermostat way down and turn the lights off. And it's a sad feeling, that something we worked very hard to build. For now, as a family, we're all kind of just here looking at each other to say, well, what is this going to last? How long is it going to go for? And I think, I think each day as I'm learning brings more questions and less answers. So we're just going, we're going to be together as a family. We're going to support one another like we always have. We are each other's biggest fans here. And, it's just one of those unique moments in life that hopefully we'll look back at this and that was a small window of time, and we learned different things, maybe ultimately even certainly as a family, but as a society, and working together and doing different things. And, things that we thought were so important maybe are not that important, right? So I think there's some learning opportunities, I think, for all of us right now.
Next question for Arthur.
This is from WDRB. What are you hearing about Olympic trials, the Olympics themselves, if anything at all at this point?
That's a loaded question right there, right? That one definitely bring more questions and certainly less answers. I think, I've been in close communication with folks, higher up folks at USA Swimming. I think obviously there's no official position. The IOC made a statement a couple of days ago, strong statement that everything will go as planned. That seems a little tone deaf to me, unrealistic, right? Because obviously it's not just, certainly we're feeling it in the U.S., but, I have coaching friends worldwide and just being in touch with everybody. And, there's plenty of countries that don't have access to any facilities whatsoever right now. They're in lockdown, especially those in Europe. So just talking to folks in Brazil yesterday, and they're going through the same thing. They're just probably a few days delay from our response, but they're going through the same thing. So I think we're adding a level of stress to the athletes and coaches, and and we're trying to play by the rules in any way we can. At what point are we adding to this by trying to fight for a little lane space somewhere? To keep the athletes in the water, what are they training for? All the prep meets at this point have been annihilated, for lack of a better term. So I'm not sure. It's a weird moment in time from that standpoint. I think, but the worst thing we can do is just get up and say, oh, everything is going to be canceled. So what's the point? I don't think we can go there. I think we just got to get up and say, you know what? Probably there'll be some delays. This is Arthur Albiero's opinion. This is nothing official. Probably there'll be some delays. I think it would be probably irresponsible to keep things as is and say that July 24 we're going to have the opening ceremony in the Olympics. That seems very, not fitting to the reality that we're all experiencing right now. So, time will tell. I understand there's a lot of different things behind the scenes and contracts and TVs and sponsors. I get that. So I'm sure at some point those decisions there'll be some hard deadlines that will need to be followed and adhered to, but I think for now we're just kind of status quo, unknown at best. Right? That's really the short answer to your question. I think right now it's unknown at best.
Any other questions for Arthur?
Arthur, this is Coleman again. So is the pool? Are any of the athletes able to train in a pool right now? And also, for those who aren't, are you giving them any sort of guidance on, on workouts that they can do at home?
Yeah, for sure. I think, the university is on lockdown right now, so we don't have access to anything. We're scrambling throughout our city here and be able to find a lane or two here and there. Mostly private facilities that certainly we have some connections that we are able to accommodate, but it's a super small group. It's really down to, I guess in my mind, I put a little list together. We have about 18 Olympic hopefuls, right, that at one point or another have been here with us in the last few weeks. And a number of those have now gone on to different places. And, we're constantly, sending practices again. It's one thing to send a practice when somebody's down to, 7 days to go to a meet and what that means and the level of that practice, the details that go with that versus now we're back to base training because the meets all got moved to June. And so it's a little bit of status quo of just trying to keep it alive. We don't know, again, when do we move into this quality phase of our training? That's really intense and, but it's not something to sustain for a long period of time. So it's definitely, the one thing I feel good, we put a lot of good work in this season. And, from a physiology standpoint, I believe it doesn't get lost. It's just a function of we got to find a way to dictate the training a little bit differently to be able to tap into those resources, if you will. So, it's a lot of emails every night, corresponding with people arguably all over the world and all over our country. And again, some are able to have access to facilities, and I would say that probably 75% or so are not. So it's dry land work and, some band work, cords, and different things you can do outside the pool. It's we're kind of using this as an opportunity to work on weaknesses and things that you need to be better. So we were training tough until last Thursday. So I think at this point, it's like, okay, it's a week off for most of everybody. This is okay. But I think as next week kind of shows up, we're the pinch is going to be felt more than ever that we need to come up with a better plan for everybody, you know, and the fear is I don't know that we have any answers right now. So one at a time, day by day.
Any other questions for Arthur? Okay, hearing none. Arthur, let's go ahead and switch and put Nick in the seat there and let him field some questions here.
Move over a little bit. Oh, you go. No, it's okay. They want you. Only me? Yeah.
Okay, now we're joined by Nick Albiero, and we'll go ahead and take questions for Nick. We have questions for Nick.
Can you talk about,
yeah, there we go.
Nick, can you talk about your feeling when you had the meeting and your dad had to tell you that they were canceled? Just talk about maybe the 7 stages of grief that you went through.
Yeah, there were for sure 7 stages, if not more. I don't know. I was just finishing up a practice on Thursday. The sprint group had kind of finished before I finished. I was doing kind of my stroke practice and I was doing some power racks, and I kind of looked over and I saw that the sprint group people who are already finished kind of just standing around. And I looked at one of them and I was like, do we have a meeting? And one of them looked at me and was like, yeah. And I was like, I just had to try to prepare myself for any news. And so I finished my practice. I'm standing around with them kind of just talking, and they say that we're going to wait for the women's team to finish because they kind of came at a later time. And I just kind of sat there and I was like bracing myself, but also like trying to comfort my teammates, especially like the seniors, and or whatever was going to happen. And once he started, you know, talking to us, and I saw the emotion come out of him, and I'm an emotional guy, he's an emotional guy. And the second that hit him, it hit me personally. And I know he's worked so hard for this team and what he's built over the years. And just looking at all the seniors that felt that emotion, it took me a while actually to kind of understand what was happening. It took me a few days to, you know, even have a genuine smile. And I started feeling bad for myself. But like he said earlier, it's so much bigger than just the swimming world. It's affecting so many more people. At the end of the day, it's just a meet that, you know, we work so hard for, but there's a lot of more serious things going on in the world. And I try to keep that in perspective, but just did my best to handle it. It took a few days, but I would say that I'm better now, and looking forward to whatever the next step is.
Next question for Nick.
So, Nick, Aaron made us.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron from WDRB. Just wondering how difficult it is looking to your dad, waiting for some sort of training plan, and he says he doesn't really have the answers right now.
Nobody has answers, it seems. I get frustrated at that because I just want him to tell me what to do, and he has no idea. So after NCAAs was going to happen, I was going to take a break anyway, just a little one. Just mentally and physically, I needed it after the season, and I went ahead and took that break. So I've actually been out of the water for 6 days, and ready to get back into it when possible. But yeah, I've just been kind of relaxing at home and enjoying my family, and, you know, keeping up with everybody else that went home, and just living one day at a time, like you said.
Next question, please.
Nick, you had put up some really good times at the ACC, and you were seated first in the 100 fly, the 200 fly, going into the NCAAs. In particular, your 200 fly time was like 1 second faster than the number 2 ranked guy. You feel like, what was your plan? Let's just have a pretend NCAA press conference. And like, do you feel like you could did you have a plan? Did you find some places that you did something at the ACCs that could have shaved off even more time going to the NCAAs?
Yeah, for sure. The second that it happened, the next day I watched the race, and even when I was swimming, I felt like, oh, that turn there could have been better. Oh, like my finish was a little bit longer than I had hoped, or, oh, pick up the tempo or less breaths, or, things like that. There's a million things that I could have done. And to me, that was what was so exciting. And I knew that, I wasn't finished yet and that there was more left in the tank for sure. But at the end of the day, being seeded first for NCAAs doesn't mean a whole lot. It's definitely a confidence booster, but all it really tells me is that I'm going to be in lane 4 in the last heat and that I have a chance, and I was going to give myself the best chance possible. And no matter what would happen, I would just move on to the next race and be there for my team.
Next question. Are there any further questions from anyone?
Nick, would you have swam all 3 of your individual events, and what medley or what relays would you have most likely, with cooperation from your father putting you on those relay teams, would you have preferred to swim?
I think the plan was to swim 3 individual races. And then my plan was to hopefully be on the 200 medley relay. I love swimming the 50 fly. It's, I've been working on my speed this season and doing sprint group here and there. And, I finally kind of figured out how to swim it. And I don't know if he would have kept me on it. They were thinking about moving me to the 200 freestyle relay. Because, 50 freestyle for me is just underwater. So I can do that too. But I was just kind of taking it, whatever he told me I was going to be happy with, and just give it everything I had.
Well, and if I may interject, I think we had our 200 medley relay. Unfortunately, we were disqualified at ACCs. We were ahead of the field, but almost a second and a half. It was a massive lead, and if our time would have stood, granted, we had a negative 0.5 exchange. So even if you were to put a slow exchange in there, 122 mid, I think roughly where we were. We're going to go in as, one of the top 3 teams in the country. So that was a relay that we felt would still be better. And certainly, we couldn't do it without Nick on that one. So, those are decisions that we're going to have to make, game time decisions as coaches to give ourselves the best chance. But, we want to go in there and have a chance to win titles. So those are decisions that we're going to drive pretty much everything we're trying to do.
All right, I'm going to ask any further questions for either Nick or Arthur. All right, hearing none, we appreciate those that have dialed in and those that are on the video side of things. Arthur and Nick, thank you for your time today. And
thank you.
We appreciate it, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, appreciate it. Go Cards.